Welcome to Crafty Sourcer. If you're looking for a raw, unfiltered podcast on all things sourcing in APAC, you've come to the right place. Grab a coffee or wine and join your host and other guests as we dive deep into the complex and ever-evolving world of sourcing, keeping you informed on insights, tools, and even at times, a healthy sourcing debate or two. Now, here's your host, Denise Pereira from Kaleidosource. Settle in and let's get crafty.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Denise Pereira, and I'm your host of Crafty Sourcer and the founder of Kaleidosource. On this podcast, we talk about all things talent sourcing with guests who are no stranger to the value talent sourcing brings and are legends in their own right. Now, our guest today is a local legend who has redefined candidate care and candidate experience, holding employers and recruiters accountable. So we are doing right by the people and the process. So let's get into it and let's get crafty. Steve Gard, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Denise. Great to be here.
I know, finally, this is going to be take two, isn't it, Steve?
It is. Let's gloss over that.
Let's move on. Let's not reflect back on the past. Now, Steve, before we get into it, of course, there's everyone that knows you here in Australia, but for the ones that don't, before we get into our chat, quick intro for our listeners, please.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Steve Gard. I am the founder of the Circleback Initiative and Benchmarks, which is a candidate experience benchmarking platform. I am a career recruiter, so recruitment is all I've ever done. Started way back before the invention of email, and I've been a head of recruitment for many years, and then started my own business about 6 days before COVID hit. It's not quite 6 days, but it felt like it. So that's me. And I really focus on sort of candidate experience now as my main domain. Circleback Initiative is all about. It's a commitment from employers to respond to every applicant, and I started it during COVID actually. So my business sort of died overnight, and I threw myself into a group called Jobs for Australia, which was basically a great group of TA and HR folk that had all lost work, who came together and said, look, we've got a lot of insider knowledge that we can coach people through that have been made redundant, that are going through a difficult time. So that's what we were doing. We were doing sort of one-to-one Zoom calls with them over a period of sort of 3 or 4 weeks, really. So we'd have sort of multiple calls with individuals. And it was there that, you could see the stress and anxiety people were going through, obviously being made redundant in an awful job market. But then those second and third calls, I was really starting to see the stress and anxiety levels going up. And 9 times out of 10, it was because they were saying, hey, Steve, I've applied for a job, I've not heard back, or I've gone for an interview and I've not heard back. So, they'd been made redundant, and then they were feeling ignored by corporate Australia. And, it really hit home that we shouldn't be doing this. And we've actually got the technology to get back to everybody. And that's really where it started. Circleback was born 2020. And we've got about 300 employers in different parts of the world, mainly Australia and New Zealand, that are leading the way. But we've got others in the UK, US, Canada, a few other locations as well.
Amazing. And congratulations. You just celebrated your 4th birthday as well. So massive milestone, Steve. Well done.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 4 years. We're in our 5th year, actually, of the initiative, awesome. But we're 4 years old. So we run the initiative every calendar year. So this is actually the 5th edition.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm doing the easy bit. It's thanks to all the employers, right, that have got on board and said, hey, this is the right thing to do. Yeah. We want to, and the whole thing is it's really a sort of a movement for change to try and change the way that employers treat candidates. As simple as that.
Absolutely. You mentioned you've got about 300 companies that are obviously committed to changing that. And from what I know, and CBI is simple, it's free. There's that commitment to respond to every applicant. It's doable, but there's still a massive chunk of employers that don't want to be held accountable, that are not signing up. Why do you think that is? And do you feel that we in talent acquisition or TA really do have a seat at that table to change that then with the higher management?
Yeah, so there's throughout the years that we've been running this, it's very rare that you come across an employer that doesn't believe it's the right thing to do.
True.
First of all, so I think it's important to say that that most employees get it. They understand this is what we should be doing. There's a few that have said, I don't believe we should be getting back to everyone, and they're very clear in my mind. I won't say who they are. And a lot of people have told me to get lost. Not a lot, but a few. And they're clear in my mind as well. But generally it's down to process or having a technology set up correctly. It is a big commitment because it's a public commitment. We ask them to put into their job ads or into their email acknowledgements that they will respond to every applicant. We put their logo on our website, which we get thousands of hits from, and a lot of them are from candidates that looking at employers that are on there. So it is quite a public commitment for an HR recruitment team to make. And I think sometimes that can be a little bit, what happens if we don't get back to somebody? And we get it. It happens. One might fall through the cracks. We're not going to kick anybody out because of that. We'll always sort of investigate, why that might be. But it's about the sentiment. It's about the commitment to try our best to get back to every single person, and most do. But it's what we're seeing is that when we've got pockets of industries where there's no representation at all. So airlines, we have no employees in that initiative, in our initiative at all. We've got no supermarkets. So some of the big players, which is crazy. I mean, if you think about those two industries, the candidates are their customers and their customers are their candidates. But it can't be because they're big employers, because we've got huge employers like Australia Post. I mean, they get thousands of applications a year. They're involved. I think it's often down to that. Not sure if they can really make that public commitment, because generally they haven't got their house in order behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's a very important point to make. I think in recruitment especially, you always need to get your house in order. Like, if you don't fix that, how are you going to bring people into the fold, right? I mean, as a candidate myself, seeing that public sort of endorsement or that logo that company is going to respond back to every candidate, I think that builds trust upfront. That puts a bit more faith in that, yes, my resume is just not going to sit there in a pile of another 100 resumes. Whether or not I get the job, I'm still going to hear back. There's going to be that sort of closure from someone. You and I, Steve, we were talking about before this. We were talking about Phenom's annual State of Candidate Experience Benchmarks report that's recently actually come out, and Jan Tiggs basically gave this rundown. And I wanted to share some stats in this call. And there's some really glaring stats here, and I'm sure this is no surprise to you, Steve, but it said that only 12% of companies provide thoroughly personalized job recommendations based on candidate profiles and behavior. That's a massive missed opportunity. One thing that stood out for me was 0% of companies communicate application status to the candidate after the initial email confirming submission of an application. Now, there's quite a few posts that I've read, and I know Darren Bush, and I'm going to take his name here. I know he's a big advocate for companies or tech vendors actually implementing something where we know where the hell our application is in the process. Where do you think, what are some practical tips that employers, recruiters can be doing, should be doing now, that need to be part of the implementation or the hiring process to implement that? Because these numbers need to change, and it's not rocket science, but we just make it so much more harder for ourselves.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to read that report yet. But I get asked this question quite a lot. Where do we start with candidate experience? Where do we start to improve it? It's a huge subject, and this is why I really focus on candidate experience, because for me, it trumps everything else that we do in recruiting. Because you can have the best attraction strategy, you can have the best selection methodology, you can have the best salary, you can have the best role. But if the candidate doesn't like you and doesn't like the experience they've gone through, they're not joining. So none of that matters. So you've got to get your foundations right, really. And there is a journey to go on in candidate experience. And for me, the Circleback commitments are the first one. First thing we're going to do is respond to every applicant, because, and this is something I talk about quite a bit, is it's simple things like, organizations think they're talent pooling, but if you're not responding to every applicant and you're not providing a good candidate experience, you're not talent pooling at all. You're kidding yourself. You think you are, but you're not. All you're doing is building a database of people that are disgruntled and once upon a time liked you enough to apply. It's so for me, it's about getting those foundations in place, and there's lots of different things you can do that. Where do you start? You've really got to start to measure your candidate experience, because if you don't measure it, you don't know where to start.
Exactly.
If you measure your candidate experience, it will tell you where you need to start. And that's what I'm not here to plug benchmarks, but I will. And benchmarks, measures candidate experience, but it also benchmarks it against other employers hiring the same skills as you. So you could see immediately where you're not as competitive in candidate experience. And that's what I always say. It's not just about providing a good candidate experience. You've got to provide a competitive one. And some data to back that up is that 50% of people said the pivotal reason I joined my current employer was the way they made me feel in the recruitment process. Salary was 19%. 19% of people said salary. So it's huge. You've got to measure it first to understand where to fix it and what to improve on, and it's got to be competitive, not just good. But then when you get to that, other end of, what is the real pinnacle of candidate experience, it goes back to what you were saying a second ago. It's all about candidate personalization. So we're seeing so much more going towards personalization of candidate experience and communication. So simple things like, when somebody applies for a role, asking them, hey, what's the mechanism you want to hear back from us? Is it SMS? Is it email? Is it a call? You might not want to put call as an option, but giving them the option of how do you want to hear? And actually, do you want to hear back from us after an interview? And how do you want to hear that? Some people don't want to call out the blue with bad news. Some do. But trying to have a standardized approach to communication that's evolving a lot more.
And it's not hard to come up with a strategy or framework to say, all right, if X number of candidates have applied and they're not right, or we've already selected people, this is what we need to go back with. Okay, someone has come through the first round of interviews, we've spoken to them, this is what our template of feedback needs to look like. They've gone through the whole end-to-end process, this is what we need to be doing to make sure that we're giving them a good experience. But I think also where that missing link is always sometimes the in-between, and I think we sometimes as recruiters forget that. Give an update as no update. That hey, we haven't heard back from the hiring manager, but we haven't forgotten about you. And candidates appreciate that. They're like, yeah, we understand. You're following up, you're doing what you can, but the ball is not entirely in your court.
It's a foundation of candidate experience. Really, if I was to sort of have 3 or 4 sort of, I guess, sort of pillars to candidate experience, it's about managing expectations and committing to those expectations. So I say to employers that ask me, what could we be doing, and it's just manage the expectations of candidates and make them aware of, this is when you're going to hear back from us, and if you can't meet that commitment, it's let them know. So there was a post I did the other day about, I don't know if you saw it, about some learnings from customer experience. So London Underground wanted to.
I saw that.
They were
that was good.
looking at, what would improve customer experience, and they looked at, was it more trains, faster trains, more comfortable trains, and what they worked out was it was actually putting displays, those dot matrix displays on the platform to show you when the train was arriving. Very simple stuff, right? But what it said was they worked out that somebody is more willing to wait 9 minutes for a train knowing it's coming in 9 minutes than wait for a 4-minute train in a state of uncertainty. Yeah, I think that's huge. There's so much learning from that.
Yeah.
So if candidates are aware of what's happening, generally it's fine. You know where you stand.
This actually reminds me of over here, we have PTV, which is the train and the trams network here. And I remember I had to catch a regional train. And because Southern Cross, I don't know if you've been to Southern Cross, Steve, but it's the largest sort of train station in Victoria. And it's huge. So to get from one platform to another, you are looking at easily a 7-minute walk or whatever that looks like. And I remember one day the board didn't say anything. So we were all like scrambling. Whoever had to catch the train from platform, wherever we were downstairs, we had to cross the other side in the next 5 minutes because the train was leaving. And there was no formal announcement, no communication, nothing. And the only way we heard was because the customer service guy was standing there and he was like, everybody go to this platform. But that was only in 5 minutes we had to get there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people actually missed their train. And everyone was really annoyed because we were huffing and puffing, running, trying to get there in time. So to your point, yeah, it matters. We would have rather waited. We would rather gone to the platform and waited another half an hour if we had to. But just knowing where you stand holds a lot of importance. And I think, this is something that seems very simple, but a lot of people just complicate it for some reason. And I can never understand why, being in the same sort of profession as well. In one of your posts, you said, and rightfully so, you said you have 2 employer brands, one before someone applies and one after someone applies. And the difference is candidate experience. And I love that because it is so true. What's been the most eye-opening and probably not so surprising data that you've seen through benchmarks that's come through?
It's a good one. There was some data that we sort of analysed a couple of months ago, actually, that showed that in some cases, and this is about, again, why candidate experience has to be competitive, not just good. We were seeing that some organisations' data for candidates that were unsuccessful after interview, so rejected after interview, their candidate experience was better than some hired candidates' data.
Wow. Interesting.
Really interesting. So that was a bit of an eye-opener, actually. So some organizations that candidate experience is so good that people are walking out of the interview not getting the job and rating them higher than some organizations where they actually hire the candidate. For me, that was a real eye-opener. And that's we go back to those employers and say, hey, look, this is something you really need to amplify. So candidate experience measurement is not just about finding things to fix, it's about finding things to amplify as well. So what is it that you're doing there that you can amplify and do more of? And which departments is that happening in, and which certain roles, and where is it not happening? And how can you translate that to that particular business unit or that particular type of recruitment that you're doing?
That's very fascinating. So the data that came out was that people that had gone through the process but didn't get through, the data was better than someone that was hired. So what was the reason why? Was it because of timely updates, or what was the reason that the hired person or whoever was?
It was a bit of a mix, really. It was things like the quality of the interview. So being able to see that actually the yes, you were rejected from an interview, but actually you were given a fair go, and actually it was a professional interview. They were on time. They treated you with respect, but also the depth of sort of questions and things like that. So how good, I guess, technically was the interview makes a huge impact. So, and I learned this many years ago. So I lived in the Middle East for a number of years, and I did recruitment for a very large retailer there. And we were finding that, and we built some assessment centers, and we made them specifically hard, because we wanted the very best. But one of the interesting bits of feedback that I got from that, from those in the early days of those assessment centers, because we're a little bit nervous, are we making it too difficult? And this was luxury retail, so we needed really good concierge type customer service. One of the bits of feedback I was getting in the actual assessment centers from candidates was, this is tough, this is hard, but what it shows me is you take your recruitment decisions very, very seriously. And if you take that seriously, it shows you're probably going to take my career seriously. But also, if I get through this, knowing how difficult it was, I'm more likely to accept the job. And I'm more likely to accept it because I've already achieved something with you. So what else can I achieve with you in the future? So yeah, it's really interesting, how the quality of the interview from the candidate is perceived and what impact that has on the ability to hire them, your ability to talent pool them, and the ability for them to also create new applicants for you through word of mouth.
Very, very, very interesting, Steve. On your point before this, sort of just thinking about the data point around people that weren't successful, and obviously the feedback from that was really good. Is there any specific industry from the 300 sort of employers that work with you where some industries are doing it much better, or this is not really industry driven and it's just more at a company level?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix. If you look at customers that we've got on benchmarks, but also companies that we've got in Circleback in particular, organizations that are in the care sector, whether that's childcare, aged care, disability, community care, they are. I'm going to talk about Circleback in particular here because we've got a lot in there. They are a very prominent group of employers, and I think that stems from the culture of the organization and what they do as a business or as a not-for-profit or whatever it might be. They care. They're actually delivering care to their customer group, whatever that customer group might be, or their patients. So it's intrinsically, inbuilt into the organization that care is an important factor of what they do. And that translates into recruiting. And it's really interesting. And I don't think that's by mistake, actually. So we see a huge number of employers that are not for profit that are delivering a care related type of service that are in Circleback and benchmarks. It's really interesting to see that.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And for me, if not for profits can do it and charities can do it, big supermarkets and airlines can definitely do it. They've got deeper pockets.
Well, I hope the airlines and the supermarkets, someone does listen, because yes, there's a lot of work that needs to happen in there, to be honest.
Yeah. But it's interesting, right? So it's not to say that they're not getting back to everyone. We do mystery applications all the time. I've made mystery applications to the major supermarkets and airlines in Australia. Every single one's got back to me, and we do. I do that fairly regularly. So it's not that they can't do it. I think it's again going back to that commitment. Putting their sort of money where their mouth is, not back a cost, but putting their money where their mouth is, I think, is the concern.
Yeah, like I was saying to you earlier, obviously I've worked with one of the big supermarkets, and I've seen the amount of applications that come in for supermarkets. It's incredible, like it's insane. And it really does make you question that, with the insane number of applications that come through, like, yes, for us that are sitting behind the screen and going through them, like, this comes back to the commitment aspect, but also our time management aspect. Like, we should be going back. There's no way that we can't be going back to people.
Well, I sort of say in that sort of in response to that actually is, and this is partly again why before I started Circleback, I'd gone into a I won't name the retailer, it wasn't the supermarket. I'd gone into a retailer and the customer service level was just brilliant, really good. And I thought, I wonder what it is like to apply to a job there. And the application experience and the candidate experience was shocking. So, if you've got, if a customer went into a supermarket and stood by the customer service line, they'd never be ignored. It might take a bit of time to be served, but you'd never ignore them. So why would we do that for the same person that's applying for a job? Makes no sense.
This goes back to your point, which you said in the start, Steve, is that getting your house in order, right? We always tend to make things look really pretty at the front. So your customer experience when you walk into the store, but having your house in order is totally a different ballgame and I think we've experienced this. I know in my recruitment career, there's always been where we always talk about recruitment being broken, which I don't believe that it's entirely broken. I always feel like we just need to fix our house, whether that's systems, whether that's processes, and it's usually systems or processes or both in the back end. Steve, quoting you here again, because I do love your posts and everything that you say resonates with me as a human being, first of all. And, I love it and I try and live by it where I can. You said candidate experience happens regardless of what you do as an employer. Candidate care doesn't. Now, in talent sourcing, candidate care actually starts from the moment that we interact with them. So we've found the candidate, we've sent them an email, a message, a text, call, whatever. So that happens right until the handover with the recruiter happens. And even in most times, we want it to be a more seamless and consistent experience. So that means that, we want to take them from end to end and not just hand over to the recruiter, to the hiring manager, or to, 10 different people. I know you all have started a sourcing survey, and you started this, I think, maybe a year or two ago, if I'm not mistaken. Have you seen anything stand out that could help those that are doing a lot of more outbound sourcing versus more traditional recruitment?
Yeah. So on Benchmarks, we've got a survey that can be sent out to candidates that have been directly sourced, and you can benchmark your results against other employers that are also sourcing. What we've seen in there's two standouts for me really is it's not just about the role and the opportunity that you're sourcing for, that you're trying to get across. It's actually the quality of the approach and the ease of moving them through to that next stage. They're two. So we asked the question, did our approach to you stand out from other employers that maybe have approached you in the past? So what was the quality of approach like? That is a really, really quite high score. So it's not just about it's not just about the quality of the message. It's got to be better than other especially when you're trying to source hard to find skills, which generally you would be if you're sourcing, right? That they're going to be getting other approaches. How do you make yours stand out from the crowd? And it's not just the job. It's the quality and the professionalism. That's the other thing that's scored very highly on Benchmarks, is the professionalism of the opportunity. Of the approach. The third bit is we ask them, and this scores very highly as well, the quality of the content that's available for them to see, which sort of underpins the direct sourcing, right? So you're directly sourced 9 times out of 10. Before you respond, you're going to go and have a look at some of their career site content or whatever it might be. That has got to be really, really good as well. So we're seeing 2 or 3 areas which are scoring very, very high, which shows that you've got to be competitive in this space. It's not just a transactional thing. It's about quality of approach, how you stand out, and what underpins that with content.
Spot on. I remember when I was at Tory and you were just starting to roll this out, and we trialed it out because at Tory, everything was, I would say 95% was all directly sourced candidates. And we got, from memory, I think it was above 90% score. And I was like, this is a game changer, because this is good for us to know where we need to focus our efforts. And like you said, it's also about improvising. Yes, you're doing good, but how can you do better? You don't just stop at good. You need to continuously improve wherever you're doing well. One thing we also learned from that was that, okay, how can we take something that we're doing well now and change that? And one of that was messaging. And I think what we need to do is, and this goes back to A/B testing. So one of the things we did was we went to our design community that was already working with us, and we were like, all right, this is the message that we take to market. As a designer, how do you feel about this? Does it, awaken excitement, joy? Does it make you want to click on, like, different? We were trying to get into the psychology of, a good message and what does that entail. So one thing I'll say is also A/B test that way. When you see that data coming back and people are like, yeah, it was good, but we've read better, so always test with the community that you get to work with day in, day out. And these sort of reports are actually very, very eye-opening in terms of what your next step is going to be.
Yeah. And this is this is a really critical area again, it goes back to why measuring candidate experience is really important, because if you don't ask the question of the people you're directly sourcing or have directly sourced, you're never going to learn. So, you might just continue doing the same thing because you think it's working, but actually, those target candidates are actually, speaking to other employers that are doing it better.
Yeah.
And you can't change the job that you're directly sourcing for, but what you can do is change your methodology, your messaging, how you're doing that. But yeah, and again, one of the biggest data points we have is that, okay, so how easy was it then to set up that initial first conversation with a recruiter? That's hugely important.
Exactly.
Measure to measure as well, because if that's not working, well, forget the first bit. Get that other bit working first.
I think also people should not just use it because it's there to use, and this should be used properly as well, and do something about it. It shouldn't be used like an exit interview, and we've all seen this where people will ask you the question, why are you leaving? What's the reason? And then after that, no changes really happen. So this is there for a reason. It's for us to improve our processes, do right by the candidate, and obviously hold ourselves accountable in a role where we should be doing this anyways. Steve, this has been great. And I know you're also presenting a free candidate experience masterclass this whole month starting the 9th of July.
Yeah, so in partnership with JobAdder, who are one of our Circleback Initiative sponsors. So all of our sponsors help us keep Circleback free for our employers. Awesome. So it's a 4-week, so once a week for 4 weeks, masterclass on a different subject. It's only 30 minutes each week, completely free to get involved. That starts this week. I'm not sure when this is going to go out.
It's going to go out this week, but yours is starting tomorrow. Your podcast will be out the day after. So everybody, please sign up. I've already signed up, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the masterclass. But Steve, thank you so much for joining us. This has been great. And, I can only see, CBI and benchmarks going from strength to strength. And I wish you all the best with whatever you're going to be doing next for us.
Thanks, Denise. Appreciate your kind words.
All right, everyone, and stay crafty. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. And we'll be back next week with another exciting episode. If you found this valuable, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, happy sourcing and stay crafty. Until next time.